Welcome to the world of science fiction stories, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe my channel. Enjoy the listening. Galactic Council stunned. You dare challenge Earth. Humanity's revenge is legendary. Ambassador Krell Vortex drummed his 7 fingers against the polished obsidian table, trying and failing to hide his growing impatience. The Galactic Council chamber, with its sweeping crystalline dome and hovering delegate platforms, had never felt so suffocating. Point of order, squeaked Representative Blindspark from the Centauri Federation. We must address the trade dispute in the Orion sector before. Oh, for the love of the 7 moons, Krell muttered under his breath. His orange-speckled skin flushed a deeper shade of copper. Another trade dispute. How thrilling. Ambassador Tala Reid of the Andromeda Alliance shot him a warning glance, her bioluminescent freckles pulsing with disapproval. She could always sense his sarcasm from across the chamber. Ambassador Vortex, the council chairperson, an ancient gelatinous blob named Ovex Prime, undulated slightly. Perhaps you'd like to share your enthusiastic commentary with the entire council. Krell straightened his ceremonial robes. Merely expressing my profound interest in Centauri trade regulations, chairperson. Please continue with this absolutely riveting discussion. Several delegates snickered. Tellus freckles were practically strobing now. This was the problem with being the youngest council member in 3 centuries. At merely 342 years old, Krell was considered barely mature enough to represent the Varaxian Confederacy, let alone contribute meaningfully to galactic governance. But what these ancient fossils didn't understand was that the galaxy was changing faster than their ponderous bureaucracy could handle. Perhaps, Krell continued, rising from his seat, we might consider discussing the unclassified intelligence reports regarding Sector 3118. You know, the one containing the previously uncontacted species that's about to be invaded. The chamber fell silent. Even Ox Prime's gelatinous form seemed to solidify momentarily. That, the chairperson said slowly, is not on today's agenda. Krell flashed a smile that displayed just enough of his serrated teeth to make the Regalian representative flinch. Forgive me, but I thought preventing genocide might trump discussing tariffs on synthetic spices. The species in question, inserted Commander Drex Mellerin of the Defense Coalition, is exoskeleton clicking irritably, is primitive. Brief FTL. They barely managed to send primitive probes beyond their own moon. The Dravic Empire has claimed salvage rights to the system. Salvage rights? Krell laughed, a sound like gravel in a disposal unit. They're claiming salvage rights on an inhabited world. And not just any world, a level 12 biodiversity hotspot with over 8 billion sentient beings. The humans, Drex Mellerin said dismissively, are fractious, violent, and technologically irrelevant. The Dravic will likely preserve some for zoological study. The holographic display in the center of the chamber flickered to life, displaying a blue-green planet with swirling white clouds. Earth, 3rd planet from an unremarkable yellow star, located in an unfashionable spiral arm of the Milky Way. I'd studied them, Krell said, his voice softer now. They're not what you think. They've developed entirely unique cultural and technological solutions. Their music alone. Ambassador Vortex interrupted Ox Prime, your hobby of studying primitive species is well known. But the Dravic Empire has followed proper protocol. The humans have no interstellar representation, no FTL capability, and no official first contact. Under Section 7 of the Non-Inference Charter, a deafening alarm cut through the chamber, causing several delegates to cover their auditory organs. The holographic display of Earth zoomed out rapidly, revealing a massive Dravic warfleet dropping out of hyperspace at the edge of the solar system. Well, Krell said, watching as the first wave of invasion craft descended toward Earth's atmosphere, it seems our discussion has been rendered academic. Looks like we're about to find out what humans are really made of. No one in the council chamber, least of all Krell, was prepared for what happened next. Emperor Vrax Dominus, supreme commander of the Dravic Imperial Fleet, stood on the command bridge of his flagship, Inevitable Conquest, with his forearms clasped behind his back. His scaled skin gleamed under the harsh lighting as he watched the holographic display showing Earth growing larger by the second. A primitive world, he announced to his bridge crew, mandibles clicking with anticipation. Bountiful resources, exploitable labor force, and most importantly, no meaningful defenses. His second-in-command, General Z. Craxon, bared his fangs in what passed for a smile among the Dravics. Our intelligence suggests they're still using chemical propellants and primitive nuclear fission. They haven't even unified their planetary government. The command crew erupted in chattering laughter. One junior officer actually fell from her perch in hysterics. Silence. Emperor Vrax's voice cut through the amusement like a plasma blade. While this conquest will undoubtedly be simple, the Dravic Empire does not tolerate complacency. We shall follow standard invasion protocol. He turned to his communications officer. Send the surrender broadcast. Give them the usual 30 seconds to capitulate before we begin orbital bombardment. Broadcasting on all frequencies, Your Magnificence, the officer reported, translating into their 7,117 primitive languages. General Craxon leaned closer to his emperor. Is this translation really necessary? They'll be speaking proper Dravatian soon enough. Emperor Vrax's inner eyelids narrowed slightly. Craxon's sycophantic laughter was beginning to grate on his auditory membranes. Standard protocol, General. Even cattle deserve to know they're being led to slaughter. He paused dramatically. Not that it will matter. Launch the first wave of Drak ships. Target their largest population centers and military installations. On the view screen, thousands of sleek, dart-shaped invasion craft detached from the motherships and streaked toward Earth's atmosphere, their shields glowing red-hot upon entry. I estimate total submission within 6 planetary rotations, Vrax declared, already bored with the proceedings. Prepare my palace ship for landing once the resistance is crushed. I wish to personally accept their surrender. The sensor officer's voice carried an unusual note of confusion. We're detecting unusual energy signatures from the planet's surface. Vrax waved a dismissive hand. No doubt they're primitive nuclear reactors. Nothing our shields can't handle. No, Your Magnificence. These are different. And there's something else. The humans are responding to our surrender broadcast. The Emperor straightened with mild surprise. Display their response. A holographic display flickered, showing the face of a human female with dark skin and determined eyes. Behind her stood representatives of various human ethnicities, all wearing military uniforms from different nations. This is Admiral Maya Ingen of Earth United Defense, the human declared to the invading alien force. We have only one response to your demand. The camera panned to reveal an enormous missile silo opening somewhere in a desert landscape. Similar scenes from around the planet. Submarines surfacing, mountain bunkers revealing hidden launchers, orbital platforms activating. Welcome to Earth, Admiral Ingen said with a predatory smile. You picked the wrong planet. Emperor Vrax's mandibles twitched with irritation. Charming. Begin the bombardment. He had no way of knowing that the first wave of Dravic Drak ships was already encountering problems. What in the seven hells is happening to our Drak ships? General Craxon snarled, watching as the tactical display showed dozens of red failure indicators appearing across the invasion force. The tactical officer frantically worked his console. Impossible. The humans are using some kind of directed electromagnetic pulse weapons. They're targeting our navigation systems. On the main view screen, a Dravic Drak ship spiraled out of control, its systems fried by an invisible pulse. Another exploded midair when it collided with what appeared to be a primitive jet aircraft deliberately piloted into its path. Suicide tactics. Emperor Vrax hissed incredulously. These humans are mad. Not suicide, Your Magnificence, the intelligence officer corrected hesitantly. The human aircraft are unmanned drones. Vrax's scales darkened with rage. You told me they were primitive. Their overall technology is Emperor, but they appear to have developed certain fields beyond expectation. Their electromagnetic warfare capabilities and drone technology are surprisingly advanced. A communication officer interrupted, panic evident in his voice. Emperor. Our second wave is reporting massive ocean-based missile launches. The humans have hidden nuclear submarines across their planetary bodies of water. The view screen shifted to show hundreds of missiles arcing up from the oceans. Most of the Dravic ships easily intercepted them with defensive lasers, but the sheer volume was overwhelming some of the smaller vessels. A pointless gesture, Vrax said dismissively, though his inner eyelid twitched nervously. Our shields will. He never finished the sentence. The missiles, upon reaching certain altitudes, suddenly detonated not against the Dravic ships, but in the upper atmosphere. They're not targeting us directly, the science officer realized with horror. They're creating an electromagnetic storm in their own atmosphere. It's disrupting our targeting systems. Under this electromagnetic umbrella, Earth's military forces were mobilizing with surprising coordination. Ground-based laser batteries, hidden within mountain ranges and desert installations, began firing upward. The shots weren't powerful enough to penetrate Dravak capital ship shields, but they were wreaking havoc on the smaller dropships. Enough of this nonsense, Emperor Vrax snarled. Begin planetary bombardment. Target their largest cities. We can't, Your Magnificence, the weapons officer admitted. Their electromagnetic interference is preventing accurate targeting. And they've released thousands of decoys, heat signatures, and radio transmitters mimicking population centers. We can't distinguish the real targets. For the first time in his military career, Emperor Vrax Dominus felt something unfamiliar crawling up his spine. Doubt. Back in the Galactic Council chamber, pandemonium had erupted. The live feed from the Sol system displayed a battle that defied all predictions. The primitive humans were holding their own against one of the galaxy's most feared military powers. Silence. Chairperson Ovex Prime's voice resonated through the chamber, his gelatinous form pulsing with vibrant colors of authority. We will have order. The chamber gradually quieted, though the murmurs of shock continued to ripple through the delegates. Ambassador Krell Vortex couldn't suppress his satisfied grin. Well. It seems our primitive pre-FTL irrelevance have some fight in them after all. Commander Drex Malloran's exoskeleton rattled with irritation. A momentary setback for the Dravak. Their full fleet hasn't even deployed yet. This resistance is merely the death throes of a doomed species. Death throes. Krell laughed, the sound echoing around the chamber. They've disabled nearly 30% of the Dravak dropships and prevented orbital bombardment without a single faster-than-light drive or energy shield to their name. The holographic display shifted to show a Dravak cruiser listing badly, its propulsion systems disabled by what appeared to be a swarm of small Earth craft that had somehow managed to bypass its shields. The Council must intervene, declared Ambassador Tala Reed, her bioluminescent freckles pulsing with urgency. The non-interference charter clearly states that genocide is prohibited regardless of technological status. And who proposed the charter in the first place? Countered the Regelian representative, his compound eyes blinking rapidly. The Dravak Empire. They'd only support non-inference when it's convenient. When they want a planet's resources, suddenly the rules don't apply. A new voice joined the debate, Senator Lox Tile of the Commerce Consortium, his 6 limbs gesticulating wildly. The economic implications alone demand our attention. If the Dravak seize Earth, they'll control 73% of the galaxy's accessible water resources. This isn't about economics, Krell interjected, his voice cutting through the babble. It's about justice. It's about recognizing potential. He stood and walked to the center of the chamber, directly beneath the holographic display showing the ongoing battle. Look at them. Look at what they've accomplished. A species that developed nuclear power less than a century ago is now holding off a galactic Tier 3 military power with crude weapons and sheer bravery. Himph, sniffed High Counselor Plex Voon of the Ancient Systems. Hardly the markers of an advanced civilization. Krell's eyes narrowed. No, with innovation and adaptation. While we've been refining the same technologies for millennia, they've been forced to think differently. Their electromagnetic capabilities surpass even the Centauri Federation's. Their drone swarm tactics are unlike anything in our military doctrines. He gestured to the display where Earth's forces were now launching what appeared to be thousands of small satellites, creating a defensive web in low orbit. They deserve the chance to join galactic society on their own terms, not as the conquered subjects of the Dravak. Chairperson Ox Prime undulated thoughtfully. Your passion is noted, Ambassador Vortex, but the Council cannot act without consensus. We will observe further before deciding. Krell's fists clenched at his sides. While you observe, billions might die. Or, Tala Reed suggested quietly, her eyes on the display where another Dravak ship was falling from orbit. The Dravak might be the ones who need our help. Deploy the annihilator. Emperor Vrax roared, his patience completely evaporated. I want this miserable planet turned to ash. General Craxon hesitated. The annihilator, Your Magnificence. It's never been field-tested against a populated world. The energy requirements alone won't do it. The Emperor's scales flared vibrant crimson. These humans have humiliated the Dravak Empire for the last time. The massive Dravak flagship began to transform, its outer hull sections shifting to reveal an enormous energy cannon that extended nearly half the vessel's length. Power conduits glowed with ominous purple light as the weapon charged. Annihilator at 60% charge, Your Magnificence, reported the weapons officer. On the tactical display, the remaining human orbital platforms were repositioning, clustering around the planet's larger moon. Earth's surface bristled with energy readings as every available power resource was being redirected. They know what's coming, Vrax said with sadistic pleasure. Let them watch their doom approach. Broadcast visuals to all their communication channels. I want every human to see their final moments. Meanwhile, on Earth's surface in a hardened bunker deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, Admiral Maya Induan stood before representatives from every major nation. The mood was grim but determined. Project Looking Glass is ready, announced Dr. Elijah Blackwell, a disheveled physicist whose bloodshot eyes suggested he hadn't slept in days. But we get only one shot at this. Then we make it count, Admiral Induan replied. She turned to the representatives. All nuclear powers have transferred launch control. Solemn nods around the room. All supercollider facilities redirected. More nods. Then God help us all. She pressed her palm against the biometric scanner. Execute Operation Mirror Shield. Across Earth, power grids went dark as every megawatt was channeled into the planetary defense system. In orbit, the clustered platforms around the moon suddenly activated, generating a precisely aligned energy web between Earth and its satellite. On the Dravak flagship, alarms blared. Massive energy spike from the planet, shouted the sensor officer. They're using their moon as some kind of reflector array. Impossible, Vrax snarled. Annihilator status. 90% charge, but Emperor, our shields are registering unprecedented strain from whatever they're generating. The view screen showed a blinding white beam connecting Earth to its moon, which then split into thousands of smaller beams directed at the Dravak fleet. Where the beams struck, Dravak shields flared and failed. They've weaponized their own star, the science officer realized in horror. They're collecting, focusing, and redirecting their sun's radiation through some kind of quantum amplification network. Emperor Vrax's mandibles clicked in disbelief. Fire the annihilator now. We can't. The targeting systems are failing under the radiation assault. Across Earth's surface, millions of people watched the sky as the invading fleet was systematically targeted by the reflected and amplified solar energy. Smaller Dravak ships began to explode or fall from orbit, while the larger vessels, including the flagship, struggled to maintain their positions. In the command center, Admiral Induan watched grimly. Prepare the counter-invasion forces, she ordered. The moment their flagship's shields fail, I want our boarding parties ready. A junior officer looked up in shock. Boarding parties, Admiral? We're going to board an alien vessel. Induan's smile was cold as ice. They wanted to see what humans are made of. Let's show them up close and personal. Emperor, we have multiple hull breaches on decks 7 through 19. The tactical officer's voice had risen 2 octaves in panic. The humans are. They're boarding us. Emperor Vrax Dominus stared at the security feeds in disbelief. Squads of humans in bulky environmental suits were pouring through the breaches in his flagship, their crude but effective weapons cutting down Dravak soldiers with ruthless efficiency. How, he demanded, how? Their atmospheric craft shouldn't be able to reach orbital altitude. General Craxon, who had been monitoring fleet communications, looked up with what could only be described as fear in his compound eyes. They're using our own Drak ships against us, Your Magnificence. The disabled ones we thought were destroyed. They salvaged them, figured out the control systems. The bridge doors exploded inward in a shower of sparks and twisted metal. Through the smoke strode a human female, not in an environmental suit like the others, but in what appeared to be a mechanized exoskeleton that amplified her movements and strength. Emperor Vrax Dominus, Admiral Maya Induan announced, her voice amplified by her suit speakers. I believe this is what my ancestors would call a parley. The Dravak guards raised their weapons. Vrax signaled them to hold. You dare board the flagship of the Dravak Empire. Your audacity exceeds even my lowest estimation of human intelligence. Induan chuckled, the sound oddly chilling coming through her suit speakers. Says the would-be conqueror whose fleet is currently being dismantled by a primitive species. She gestured casually, and the human soldiers behind her raised peculiar devices that emitted low hums. Signal jammers, she explained. No communications in or out. Just us having a friendly chat about your immediate and unconditional withdrawal from Earth space. Around the flagship, the battle had turned decisively. The Dravak fleet, already crippled by Earth's mirror shield system, was now being systematically disabled by squadrons of small, agile Earthcraft. They weren't trying to destroy the alien vessels, they were capturing them. Commander Jackson reporting from Dravik Cruiser Designation Alpha 6 came a voice over N1's comm unit. Engine room secured. Engineering team is already reverse engineering their FTL drive. You were right, Admiral. It's remarkably similar to Dr. Patel's theoretical models. Vrax's mandibles clicked in rage and disbelief. You seek our technology. Among other things, Nguyen agreed pleasantly. Consider it compensation for the inconvenience of having to deal with your invasion. Oh, and we're particularly interested in your translation matrix. Quite impressive, really. Instantaneous cross-species communication. On the bridge view screen, another Dravik vessel surrendered to the human boarding parties. The once mighty invasion force was being systematically subdued, not by destruction, but by capture. This is impossible, General Craxon whispered. No species has ever defeated the Dravik. Nguyen finished for him. There's a first time for everything, and humanity specializes in doing the impossible. She raised her mechanized arm, pointing directly at Emperor Vrax. Now, about those surrender terms. The Emperor's scales had faded to a pale, sickly green. The Dravik Empire does not surrender. Nguyen's smile was predatory. I was hoping you'd say that. It means we get to keep more of your ships. She tapped her comm unit. All teams, Protocol Omega. Secure all technology and useful intelligence. Prepare captured vessels for Earth transit. Emperor Vrax realized with dawning horror that the humans had never expected him to surrender. They had planned this all along, not just to defend, but to leap forward centuries in technological development in a single, brilliant counteroffensive. The Galactic Council chamber had never been so quiet. The holographic display showed what no one had thought possible. The remnants of the once mighty Dravik invasion fleet in full retreat, with nearly a third of their vessels now under human control. Ambassador Krell Vortex couldn't help himself. He slow clapped, the sound echoing dramatically through the silent chamber.